In this video, I will walk you through how you can create your own custom ChatGPT using OpenAI APIs and Python. We will also connect some external tools to our custom GPT and make it personalized basically. So let's get started. All right. So first of all, we have to get to the development environment of OpenAI. So if we click this API and then if I click start building, it will take me to this URL that says platform.openai.com. All right, so let's go to the dashboard. First of all, we will start with creating an OpenAI assistant, right? So here I'll just click create. Okay, the assistant has been created and all I have to do is customize it. So I'll give it a name and say Sohail GPT. Here I'll just write you're a helpful assistant. That's it, guys. I just gave a name, instruction, and the model that it has to use. I'm not changing the rest of the settings and I'll just click create. Actually, it is already created, so I just have to click playground. Alright, this assistant has been created and all I just have to do is interact with it. So let's say hello. Right, it is responding fine. And now it's time to get to Python and connect with this assistant that we just made. And then we will personalize it further, right? Okay, so I'm here on VS Code and all I have is a file called assistant.py. First, we'll connect to our assistant. We'll make sure that whatever we are saying, we are getting a valid response for that. After that, we will connect our assistant to some external tool and give it the ability to actually use that tool on demand. Right. I'll go to their documentation and here we have some helpful codes. You can find this documentation by clicking over here on the playground and on the left menu, you can select overview. So let's import this piece of code. Right. This block of code is responsible for creating an assistant, but we have it built already using the UI, so we don't need to use this code. Step 2 is to create a thread. Let's copy this, paste it here. So every time we run the program, we want it to create a thread. So this is fine. Once the thread is created, we have to add some message to the thread. So we are going to ask the user for input every time. So I'll just create a while loop, user input, right, and I am pasting that piece of code which I copied. Here, instead of this hard-coded message, I will pass the user input from here. Okay, once this message is created, we have to create a run. Run is basically responsible for executing your prompt, whatever messages you have against the assistant and get you the response. So let's get back to the code. Let's paste it here. This piece of code requires two important things. One is thread ID and the other is assistant ID. Since we have assistant already created, so all we need to do is go there and grab the ID of the assistant. This is the assistant ID. Let's copy, paste it here. And in the instructions, we are not going to pass the instructions because we want this assistant of ours to use these instructions that are passed over here. In case you would like to replace the instruction in the runtime, you can just pass the variable here and assign the new instructions. The next step we have to do is grab the response from the run that was created. We have this if condition that checks if run status is completed. It means the AI was able to generate valid response for your run that was created up there. If the status is something else, it means we have to handle that as well. And we will see how different run statuses are being handled. Instead of printing this message, it have lots of metadata. Since we are only interested into printing the response that is coming from AI. So in that case, we have to write messages dot data 0 dot content 0 dot text dot value, right? So it should just print the message that is coming from the AI. And yeah, let's try to run this piece of code and see what happens. Let me change it here. Right. So remember, when we imported OpenAI and initialized this client, it is automatically reading my API key from my environment variable. In case you would like to pass your API key here in this variable, you can just type API key equals and write your API key like this. Anyway, my API key is already in the environment variable, so the code should work for me. Right. Hi. Perfect. So I said hi, and my GPT is responding, hello, how can I assist you today? And now it is again asking me for input. What can you do for me? I can assist with variety of tasks, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so basically it is responding to my queries, and it also have built-in memory because we are using the same thread until and unless we close the program completely and run it again. So this is our custom GPT built already. But what will make it custom? It is just communicating with the Assistant API, and there is no customization to this GPT so far. Alright, so let's test it in a different way. Now I'm going to provide a URL of website and see if this GPT is actually able to read information from that website and answers me. Let's see. I have a website called Flyer Genie. It's just a dummy website so far. Go through this website and tell me what it's about. Also give me their email. Plugin is a website that offers user can create, customize, or print flyers for various purposes such as events, blah blah blah. Right. So basically, this information it is coming back with it is totally incorrect. That's not how it is. The reason why it is incorrect because it has not read anything from the website that I provided. It is just guessing all this information based on this name that says Flyer Genie. Like as a human being, we just think, okay, this name represent this, so we can just guess things about that, right? So that's what the AI is doing here. And when I ask about the email, it is not able to answer me. So now we are going to give the ability to this assistant so that it can read text from any given URL, right? So maybe you are exploring Wikipedia, you are reading something and there is too much of data. You'll just copy the URL, give it to the assistant and say, please summarize it for me. And it will actually summarize it in that case because we are going to give it the ability. Right. So for that, we have to go back to our assistant and we will add function calling to this assistant. I'll click function. Let's load an example. So our function is going to be read website text. Actually, read URL text. It is much more relevant. The description is it reads text from any given URL. All right. So instead of saying location, let's say URL. The type is string URL, chat or web page. All right. So we don't need these other variables. So let's get rid of them. Website URL. All right, it seems fine. Let's save this. Okay, we have some error. I'm going to some online JSON validator to see where is the issue. Okay, in line number 10, we have an issue. We have extra bracket, I guess. Okay, so we had to actually remove that extra comma over here. Anyway, let's copy this, go back to our assistant and paste it here. Right, our function is ready. That's called read URL text. And now we have to define this function as well on our end in the code. So let's do that. I'm not creating different files. I just want to make sure everything is very simple and straightforward. So I'll define a function right before the while loop and call it read URL text. You can name it anything else as well. It doesn't matter. Let's say it will take a URL as input. So what it will be doing is it will take this URL, explore it, and read its text. Right. For that, first of all, we have to use a platform called RJINNA. I don't know what do we call it, if R is silent or not. Let's call it Jinnah. Anyway, so let's import requests. This module is used to, interact with internet, make requests, HTTP based requests, and so, okay, in our URL, let's say request dot get. I'll pass this URL. It's called r.gina.ai and /d.py. Basically, this is a platform that takes in your website URL, and as a result, it just read all its text and returns it to you. So this is what we are going to use. It is totally free. This URL remains the same, but after the final slash, we are going to add our URL. Right. So return res. Actually, let's print res. Never mind. Let's test this function before we can move further. Okay, the response is 200. We have to type res.text. Right, so as you can see, this function is returning me all the text that is present on that web page. And this text can be used by our assistant to respond to user. Now we have to handle a different run status. Either the run is completed or the run might be requesting a function call. So, okay, so I checked their documentation and this is what I see. These are different run statuses. So when the run status is requires action, it means it wants to call a tool. So let's say if run.status equals requires action, let's print run. Let's see what is actually inside in this case. Alright, so here in the documentation, I see further codes example. As you can see in the assistant section, we have the function calling quick start guide. Here I see that this is how they are getting the tool call, and paste this piece of code over here for tool in blah blah blah, do this and that. Okay, so since we know we only have one function call over here and it is called read URL text, it's saying if tool.function name equals read URL text, then this is what we have to do. Tools output dot append. This is the ID of the tool. And this is basically an array that we have to actually define. So let's say tool outputs. It's an empty list by default. And if there is a tool, then it is going to call the tool. So in our case, in this if condition, we have to basically make the tool call. So for that, what the assistant is going to do, it will provide a parameter from their end, which means if the user is saying, hey, this is my website URL, can you read it for me? And for example, the website is d.py. So the assistant will detect that, okay, here I need to make a tool call. So they will also provide the parameter for the tool call, because when we were defining our function, we were telling it, hey, this will be the name of the parameter, and this is what the parameter actually means. It means it is going to pass the URL as parameter for us tool. So I just want to see what is inside this so that we can, fetch things accordingly. So I'll just clean my terminal. Can you read this text for me? So it's saying require action function tool call blah blah blah, and inside I have these arguments. Okay, so this is how I can fetch the argument. I'll say arg equals tool dot arguments website URL. Oops, my bad. It is like tool dot function. Okay, so basically I also have to uh parse it because it is in form of string right now. So I'll just go up there, import JSON, come down here. Okay, it is called JSON JSON.loads, and inside these brackets I have to write it this way. Okay, now in this arc I should actually get the input parameter that is required for our function. Let's verify. Okay, so as you can see, this is the parameter being passed, and we are able to actually fetch. So now let's call our function that says read URL text. Res equals read URL text. It will take the arg as input, and whatever response we get from here, we are going to pass it here as an output. Let's convert it to string. Once this output is submitted to this list, then we have to make another run and provide these tool outputs as well in that run. Let's get to the documentation. Okay, this is the piece of code that we require here. If there is a tool output, then it is going to create another run. I am going to get rid of all the try and except blocks to make sure our code is simple. I'm also putting this while true. Okay, I want it to run inside a loop until and unless the run status is completed. Once it's done, I'll just say break. All right, so things are done and now we have to test it out. So let's provide a URL of website and basically ask about that. Let me get to my website. Let's copy this, paste it here. I'll ask what is d.py and what they are offering. Also, let me know about their pricing. Right. Now it got it correct. It is saying d.py is an AI integration and automation agency. They offer tailored AI solutions that can be integrated seamlessly. These are the services. This is very much correct. The features are also correct. The pricing is simple monthly packages. Pricing is subjected to a discovery call. That is correct. This is also correct. Right, there are some testimonials. Yeah, this is also correct. Hossein Morris Mark. All right. So what we see so far, we initially created a very basic assistant and get connected to it using our Python code. But at that stage, the assistant was just a regular assistant like ChatGPT. It had no specialty, right? And then we decided, okay, let's give it some customization. Let's give it the ability to explore different URLs and read their text and be able to actually respond to the user. And we did that by defining a function over here and also giving the function call ability to our assistant using the UI, which you saw previously in this video. Similarly, you can provide any customization, such as maybe you want this assistant to be able to call somebody for you, give it ability to send emails on your behalf, or there are a variety of things you can do. You can totally customize it and use it for different use cases. All right, so I hope that helps. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And thank you so much for watching. In future videos, we'll try to cover more advanced things rather than these basics. So make sure you hit the subscribe button.